Today's video will be about improvisation, flawed designs, and how to avoid mistakes made by many role-playing games. I like to address minimalist design, micro-RPGs, and universal systems, or as I like to call them, lazy design. I call it that because the designer leaves so much of the design work to the players. I don't like it when designers ask me to design their game. And while I may change the rules, setting, or suggestions, I want to start with the complete game. Now, you may guess that this means that I don't like GURPS or Genesis, and generally you'd be right. But both these games have settings accompanied by suggestions in separate books. It's not my cup of tea, but I will play them. Another thing that I don't like is when games like Fiasco require me to watch films, play video games, or read books or comics to play them. It's a problem if one or more players haven't done the recommended reading. Not every game does this. You don't have to read the comics to play Weapons of the Gods. But the epitome of lazy design is found in Universalis. Universalis sets up a simple system for generating settings, rules, and social contracts. The freedom is presented as an opportunity, but I prefer to think of it as a lot of extra work. It doesn't help that having identified flawed rules the designers chose, rather than implementing the fixes, to merely suggest ways to fix the rules. This results in less than optimal rules, and that if you're creating a rule, you're likely to steal it from another game. Universalis works very differently from many other games. Coming up with rules on the fly also forces you to think about things other than story. The story occurring with a setting created by the group as a committee. When was the last time that you heard of a committee being creative? Needless to say, the game doesn't include many suggestions. Universalis lacks a typical plot. There's no one GM, meaning that the stories of discovery and mystery are hampered. But enough of flawed games. I'd like to focus instead on games that support improvisation, and one of the best in this category is Shadowrun. This is the second edition. I started with first edition Shadowrun, and it's a lot of fun. I haven't played the most recent editions, and I looked at them. They have flaws in them, and that it's missing a section. It starts with a preset plot. It has instructions on how to map out adventures, both in reality and on the net. And everyone you'll likely meet along the way is called contacts. And these contacts are fully statted out in the game, along with hints on how they'd behave. So, yeah, it's quite a significant number of pages of contacts. In addition, there's critters and other things. Sure, you can improv beyond what's expected. That's why we play RPGs instead of board games. But Shadowrun support gives you so much to fall back on that it feels exceptionally freeing. It also gives companies, magic, and a host of other information. The only exception is that it doesn't describe businesses. Fortunately, I also have Over the Edge, or more specifically, it's At Your Service expansion. This expansion details the businesses contained in this little area, and that's it. But, and each business is detailed on page, maybe 2, maybe 3 or 4. But it doesn't matter whether I am choosing to use just a small area of the world, or I'm trying to create a larger area and slotting these businesses in as needed. Another aspect that I like to reference is Chromebooks, okay? And these are useful beyond the cyberpunk setting in that they list a lot of aspects of reality that need to be handled in order for you to design a game. That includes random items, transportation, fashion, and services or businesses, which are not particularly local. So, it doesn't matter whether I'm running a science fiction setting or a medieval one, I make sure that every aspect of these item lists are covered. So, different games require different supports for improvisation, but the freedom to improvise is created not from nothing, but from knowing that you've got something safe to fall back on if you're stuck for ideas. This is how all creativity works, and what I try to reproduce in all of my games. Of course, that means stealing inspiration from a wide range of designs. Do I assume that my players are experienced and therefore are good at improvisation, or inexperienced and therefore lacking the necessary skills? I also have to consider how long each session is. Is it 20 minutes, an hour? Is it a full 4 hours, or is it a monster session of 12 or 24 hours? I also take into account how many people have to be actively improvising. This is usually done by GMs. Reactive improvisation can occur too, but that's usually reserved for players. Of course, designs tend to reallocate responsibilities. Many story games do this, and that can throw this off. It means considering how much improvisation skill is necessary for each part of playing. So, this is where playtesting comes in handy, especially if you record a session, and especially if you're playtesting with people who are new to role-playing. Look for parts of the games that cause the players or the GM to struggle with improvising. Think about your standard plot and whether or not you need to better support that part of the story where the problem occurs. And speaking of standard plots, don't be afraid to mention them along with supporting them. Anyways, that's just what I've been thinking about. Have yourself a great day, and Dewey!